and welcome to the Comic Conspiracy episode 586 for the week of Monday, May 8th, 2023. My name is Ryan Higgins, who's here with me this week.
Brock Sager.
And still not Charlie.
What are you, Toby now? What's going on? That's Kevin.
No, I think
Kevin.
he's making a jab at Charlie because
that's not a jab. It's not a jab. It's my arms are open, welcoming him. It's not a jab.
That's a call.
I wish he would parachute in right now.
Maybe he will.
Yeah.
Maybe he will.
It's a big parachute.
We got a few things to talk about this week, but we are going to start Guardians of the Galaxy 3, and we'll talk as long as we talk. And if we get to news, we get to news. If we don't, we'll deal with that next week.
I'm going to take a wild guess and say we're going to get to news.
Well, so couple. I don't remember, what was the last movie? Ant-Man. I think of Ant-Man.
Yeah,
I just said, I just can't anymore. Like my energy for 2.5 hour conversations about comic movies is just over. Like I just don't have the things to say about them anymore. I'm not going to sit here and blab endlessly about something when I'm just kind of like, yeah, okay, cool.
It's also, there's a difference when you're in person versus online, right? In person, you can go on a little longer, right? But when you're not in person, it's
a little bit, some of the more dominant personalities are on hiatus from this podcast. So, if Toby or Bryce were here, I'm sure they'd go on for a little bit longer. But
would you think you'd have more energy to talk about a comic movie you loved or hated?
Wow, that was
probably hated, because I think there's a bigger conversation to have outside of just the specifics of the movie. I think if it's a movie that we all like or love, and you're like, that was cool. Yep, that was cool. Okay. I guess that's it. Right?
Podcast over. Let's go, people.
Yeah. So I don't know. So Guardians, okay, and we were gonna spoil. So I'd say give us 45 minutes, maybe.
Just mark it and put it in the notes.
Episode. I don't know. I don't know how long. Put it in the notes. I don't know how long we're gonna be talking about Guardians. And I don't want that to come off like it's a negative or positive. We'll talk about it, but I do feel like I've had to kind of change my episodes length on these because it's like, well, with the writer's strike and with kind of some of the superhero fatigue, maybe we will have fewer comic book movies and TV shows to talk about. So maybe it will be better. Maybe we'll have more to say about them.
Yes,
I don't know.
That means we need listener questions. Everybody start getting your...
I actually do have two. I do have two listener questions. Thank you. People responded. I have two listener questions. Remind me at the end of the episode.
Brock, you remember if I don't remember to remind him.
Oh, no, we will do those. Those will be done.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah,
as well as a meanwhile update.
Yeah, of course. Yep. Our final one? No, we'll have one.
You have one more, yeah.
So there will be spoiler talk here. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Give us a little while. We'll talk about this. And a little news at the end, some questions. So we have to go to Kevin first because well, because of Warlock.
Yeah,
Warlock's one of your favorite characters. So I want to know what you think of the movie in general, but specifically Warlock and kind of what gets set up in this. Because I know this is maybe I might take, but I want to hear sort of what your thought is on this, because I know this character is a little bit more important to you than probably most people. He's one of your favorites. So,
well, I do have to share with the experience of watching it, which was, so normally I show up at a movie like 15 minutes after the start time because I don't want to sit through the trailers or like lurk awkwardly in the lobby while the trailers play. So I did that and I walked in and the movie's going and I'm like, oh, wow, that they must have had half the usual amount of trailers. I wonder how much I missed.
So this is funny because me and Brock had this exact conversation.
Yep.
I had like 3 or 4 trailers. It was fast. Brock had like a half an hour of trailers.
Okay. Mine was like 20 minutes. It was like the theater said it was going to be done at like 12:45 and we were still in there at like 12:57.
Yeah, I don't know. I think this is the fewest amount of trailers I've seen in front of a movie in a long time.
I could top it because when I walked in, the Guardians are with Stallone and his crew, and they're talking about how they have to save Rocket. I'm like, wow, gosh, they must have just started this like opening credits, and they just like immediately went into the story. I'm like, huh. And so it comes to the end, and I go, I've probably missed 10 minutes of that movie. That's really weird. So I went back the next day to just watch the beginning. I just asked, can I just go in and watch the beginning? And that nobody cared. It turns out I missed 20 full minutes.
Yeah.
So the screening I went to had 0 trailers, literally 0. So when I walked in 20 minutes late, I was walking in 20 minutes into the movie.
What the hell?
Right. So I had to wow, it all made a lot more sense after day 2. I'll just say that much.
Did they accidentally not play any
I don't
trailers
know.
Or was there trailers?
If it was accidentally, it was an accident that happened 2 times in a row.
That's so bizarre. Yeah, because we only had Flash, Marvel's, Spider-Verse, and Oppenheimer. I think those are the only 4 trailers we had. And they were just like done, 10 minutes, done.
Yeah.
Not even, maybe, 10, 11 minutes, and the movie started. It was really short. I mean, I'm used to 7, 8. It feels like every time I go to the movie, it's 9 trailers, you know.
And then a commercial or 2.
Yeah. Oh, it's commercials beforehand.
I had
we have
Oppenheimer,
very few trailers.
Elementals. I can't even remember the other ones. There was no Flash one. There was no
Indiana Jones.
Marvels.
No.
Oh, we had Indiana Jones too. Sorry, we had Indiana Jones. So maybe there was 5. But it was but not some crazy amount of trailers.
Yeah, I think we had Marvels, but we didn't have the other ones, and I was just like, all right.
Yeah.
Unrelated, but oh my god, Oppenheimer looks so good.
Well, see, Ryan, everything you just named other than the Marvels is a movie I want to see, so I don't want to see the trailer.
Yeah.
So my strategy was sound. I just was unprepared for having no trailers. But anyway, I'm glad I went back because, man, I was pretty lost after. I mean, you can kind of figure out what's going on, but you just don't know why any of it is happening the first time.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see. Guardians.
Why didn't you also remind us Guardians 1 and 2? What you're feeling?
Well, Guardians 1, which I just rewatched in the past month, I want to say, is top 5 still for me. Top 5 of MCU. Remains, and I know this is a comparison that people have made, and I think it stands. I think the comparison stands. Guardians 1 is like Star Wars level. I mean, OG Star Wars. As far as, I'm not going to say it's as good or as important culturally or anything like that, but as far as a balance of stuff for all ages to enjoy, it's right. It's just like this perfect action, drama, comedy, characters. Great. Love it. Guardians 2, of course, is that legendary night at the theater with the floors. The
classic meme that'll never die.
The floors and the no air conditioning. So I don't know that I could accurately even review because I've never seen it since that night.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I don't really know that I can. I should probably rewatch it, right?
You should. Yeah, I've seen it 3 times now.
Okay.
I've saw it.
I had to rewatch it because that first experience was so bad. I had to take myself out of that movie theater.
I should probably rewatch it.
I watched it when I did that big watch, the rewatch of all the Marvel movies before Endgame. So that's the last time I saw it. And then I've wanted to see the Leanne cut, but I have yet to get a copy of that. So
I'll hook you up.
All right.
She's got more important stuff to do right now, Brock. Much more important than recutting Guardians. Okay. So for this, what are we doing? General reviews? General comments?
Do your general view. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. General, especially Warlock.
This is right in the middle between the two for me. There is stuff that I very much enjoyed, and there is stuff that was kind of a little eye-rolly, but not offensive. Just it veers too far in the direction that I'm not really a fan of. But overall, great villain. Good story. Good amount of humor and darker stuff. I will say that tonally it does kind of lurch around a little for me. It's really dark, and then it's very silly, and sometimes that doesn't quite
mesh too well.
Yeah, it's a little shifting from first gear to fifth, and then back to second as you're driving.
All I'm hearing is grinding.
Yeah, I mean, so that first showing that I went to had like 5 people in it. The second showing I went to had a ton of people in it, including like families with kids. I'm like, good luck tonight when you get home with the nightmares from this one. Enjoy, kids. But again, I was only in there for 20 minutes and then I left. So I don't know how it went. But yeah, right in the middle between the two. And what else did you want? Oh, just comments on the character?
Specifically you for Warlock, because I know he's one of your favorite characters. So I want to know your take on it.
It's not that they got him wrong. It's just that they didn't really get him. And yes, of course, the comeback, and you can see it in a lot of the reviews online, is, oh, he's going to be developed for future movies. Sure, fine. But there's really nothing here in this movie. Other than the very beginning and the very end, he's really irrelevant to the story. I'm glad I saw that first scene because I was like, man, he sure doesn't do much for a lot of this movie. Until I saw the beginning where that opening scene, he's really more like Marvel's Gladiator than any version of Warlock that's ever been in comics. I mean, it's still cool. It's just a completely different character. So yeah, Ryan, I know you liked me to have a fire breathing, scorching take, but it wasn't bad. It was just kind of a cipher.
No, that's
there
fine.
Really wasn't much.
No, I'm curious. I was curious.
Like, again, other than kicking the plot off at the start, and the thing that I won't mention in case we're avoiding spoilers for the end.
We're not.
Well, but I didn't know if we want to spoil the end right now at the top. He's relevant at the beginning. He's relevant at the end, and you could kind of remove him from the rest of the movie because it's kind of like a Looney Tunes character where he just like comes flying through a scene and then disappears, and then he's back again, comes flying through another scene, and he's just not really irrelevant to the goings on. So I don't really have much to say about him. I mean, it's fine. The High Evolutionary was great. The Warlock was just kind of a zero for me. Not like a zero meaning I hated it, just like I have nothing really to say.
Yeah. That's fine. Brock, what do you think?
Much like Kevin.
Overall.
Yeah.
Views.
Much like Kevin, I love the first film. The second film is we've said our piece about that numerous times. But this one falls again like between 1 and 2. I did like some things, other things started to creep towards the Guardians 2 stuff I didn't like so for me that was it felt like I was on like an edge, right? It was like, is it gonna go too far? Is it gonna go too far? So but for the most part I liked the story. The High Evolutionary worked in this movie. But yeah, like it was entertaining, and it was, I didn't have to split it up, but I only missed the part when they're dressed in all the color suits and they head out to rob the place. I had to hop out to use the bathrooms, but I figured I didn't miss too much in that scene, especially when I came back and it was Gamora or Star-Lord talking to Gamora on the open channel. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, for the most part, it was entertaining. It did what it needed to do, and I mean, even though it was slightly predictable as it went on for what was going to happen, it was still a fun ride, at least for the stuff I enjoyed.
Yeah.
As for Adam Warlock, I was like, is this the character? Because if it is, this fucking sucks. Like. Sorry, I was
not like Warlock.
No, it was like he comes on the scene and he's just like, all right, and then I was mommy, and I was like, oh god, like I don't need to see more of him.
Well, wait. Brock, I just, not to step on you, I'm just going to say this one thing related to what you're saying. There's the scene at the beginning where the mother says to the High Evolutionary, "You woke him up from his cocoon too soon."
Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah.
I think you needed to show that because that cocoon is in the post-credit scene of 2, which came out, what year was that? 2017?
5 years ago. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
you can't
6
rely
years
on
ago, yeah.
like you needed to. I think you needed to add in a 3-minute scene showing that happen, which I think might have addressed what you're talking about right now, and
Yeah,
plus
'cause-
would have been helpful for an audience in general.
Yeah, because for me, his character was just like you said. He had that big thing at the beginning where he's fighting the Guardians, and kind of sets the ball rolling for the story. And he's used at the end, right? Because he's really the only one that can do that at that point. And oh look, it's convenient that he's there at that time. But yeah, for the most part, anything I saw him in, for the rest of it, I was just like, do I really care? Like, I was not. Like, he was just there. It was like a fly on the wall, but you were just like, okay, he's still here. And I can't remember the people that he's from.
The Sovereign
gold people.
The Sovereign.
The Sovereign. Like, the Sovereign lady was, I mean, like, her character, okay, you're groveling to the High Evolutionary, and okay. Like, it to me,
Well,
it was
he created them, remember?
Oh, I know, but like, we didn't really, like, I would have liked to have seen some more backstory on that, right? Like, but again, that's just nitpicking little things here and there. But for me, yeah, I was, and I'm not familiar with Warlock's character except from the stuff I've read with the Abbott and Lanning Guardians and all Annihilation and Conquest. So for me, this was not the Adam Warlock character that I'm familiar with.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
Yeah, overall, I actually really like this movie. Like you guys both said, Guardians 1 still top tier, one of my absolute favorites of the Marvel Universe MCU movies. It was really, really good. 2, I disliked a lot. I thought the jokes were all meaningless and pointless and not funny, and really ruined what could have been a cool movie. And this real cringy stuff in 2. And I don't know if Gunn was just being forced to do weird stuff, or wasn't happy the movie, too many people controlling the script. I don't know what the deal was with 2. Because this to me feels like it's right back to where number 1 was. A little bit with Drax, they play him dumb, which is fine, but not nearly as bad as 2. All the parts with Mantis I thought were significantly better. There was no part of this movie bothered me the way I was just constantly annoyed in Guardians 2. And we'll deal with more of the end of the movie later. But I thought this was as emotional as any of the Marvel movies could possibly have ever been. Animal stuff is tough. So, I don't know, kill a million people, I could give 2 shits, but hurt an animal, and I'm like, oh my God, no. So High Evolutionary, I saw other people making this comment, right? High Evolutionary is not some like, oh, he's a hero, or he's a villain, but maybe he's a good guy. We still going to be able to sell the T-shirt at Disneyland of the villain, because he can't be too bad. He can't be too bad. No, fuck that, dude. The High Evolutionary is a fucking asshole, scumbag piece of shit. He was great. He was an irredeemable, just psychopath, which was awesome. Easily one of the best villains of the Marvel Universe. They're not trying to make him like some, in the end, he was really a good guy. No, he's a horrible piece of shit.
I think my favorite line from this movie was, and I'm going to misquote it here because I was laughing like to myself so much, was when Star-Lord calls him wasn't he a second-rate RoboCop, or like at the end when he's
it's something like that.
It's something like with RoboCop, and I was just like, oh, like, yeah.
Throw Kang into a fucking ravine and make the High Evolutionary your big bad going forward. You could totally do it. There's a million stories you could use. He could, I don't know, whatever. He could make 1,000 planets of crazy ass monsters for the Avengers to fight. I don't care what you do. I never want to see Kang again. And I want High Evolutionary to be the villain for like 20 movies. He was awesome.
What's
What's
funny is he's way more of a villain in this than he is in the comics.
Yeah. But which is fine.
Yeah.
So, and with High Evolutionary and Warlock, I feel like they got it, I don't want to say right, but pretty much right. My frustration with so many of the Marvel movies recently has been, well, the name is Taskmaster, and maybe there's kind of some of the powers, but that's not Taskmaster, right? It was the character's fine, but it's not Taskmaster. And the name's MODOK, but that's not MODOK, right? Oh,
God,
like trying to think who else? Like it feels like, okay, that's not, that's not Shang-Chi, right? I mean, the name Shang-Chi, and it's kind of the character, but not really, right? Like this has happened constantly with the recent Marvel movies, where you feel like the comic people are no longer involved, and they're like, well, we have the name, we have the, and then we'll take, like Miss Marvel, they gave her like a total new power set, although the character is pretty accurate to the comic. Both Adam Warlock, at least from like a power point of view, and really from an origin, is pretty accurate to the comics. He doesn't act like this, right? The characterization is different. Adam Warlock tends to be a much more kind of stoic, godlike being, but at least he comes from the cocoon. He's part of the sovereign people thing, right? He's like this advanced created being. This feels like him, right? Not Adam Warlock, the original character before he becomes Adam Warlock.
This is a good representation of him.
Right, exactly. So in the Fantastic Four comics...
So him, we're talking H-I-M.
H-I-M, right.
Capital H.
Capital H,
right,
yes.
Right. The character was named him. He was birthed from a cocoon. He didn't have a name. He was just like this being. And so he becomes Adam Warlock later. But...
And there's no sovereign.
Dealing with
this was when he was purple, right?
No, that's the Magus.
Okay. Magus is like his.
He's created. Him is created by some scientists in a lab. He's not part of a race of people.
No, but the Sovereign are made by the High Evolutionary in the comics, right? I thought they were.
Are the Sovereign in the comics?
I think so.
Well, no, I think a version of the Sovereign is in the comics, but it's not Sovereign in that. It's more of like a religious cult.
Yeah, I have to go back and look at it. They're involved in some way with Adam Warlock, but like in later stories. But in the comics, he's more just like this being that exists without any real personality. In this, they play more childlike, which to me is a perfectly fine way to fit the tone of this movie. So I really had no problem with Adam Warlock. It was pretty cool. Yes, Kevin, I agree with what you said. I would have liked to have seen, that cocoon thing actually in the movie, because he literally comes out of nowhere, and you don't, they explained it all, right? That he's working for the High Evolutionary, but they don't, you don't really see that. But I think overall, at the end of the day, they kind of got him as close as maybe I think he'd get. And then High Evolutionary too, right? It's not exactly the same as the comics, but I feel like tonally and his sort of motivation and introducing things like Counter Earth, like that's all. Like they didn't have to do any of that. That is straight out of the comics, and that is all pretty comic accurate at the end of the day. When we talked about Peacemaker, that character is such a blank slate. There's just so few stories with that character, so they really could do anything they wanted to. High Evolutionary and Adam Warlock have a significant amount of stories comparatively. So there was a lot more to pull from, and I don't feel like Gunn just comes out here. Again, most of the Guardians, there's not a lot to these characters prior to the movies, and it really wasn't until the Abnett and Landing run where they got. I mean, the amount of appearances of these characters in the last 10 years is 100 times what they were prior to the previous 50, right? So there's way more of these. How many times has Garuda Rocket Raccoon or Star-Lord shown up in a comic prior to that handful, right? So I think at the end of the day, the villains are really as good as they could have been. They feel comic accurate, and I think that comes out in the performances. Right? They're not trying to make MODOK's kind of a good guy at the end. No. Fucking High Evolutionary is a fucking scumbag. That's fine. That's totally fine. He's a villain. He should be a bad guy. Yeah, I really like this movie. It's not my favorite. It's not as good as number one. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it cracks my top 10, but I mean, if I get to give like A minus, B plus at worst, like I really liked it. It was a ton of fun, and it's pretty heavy. What Kevin said, it's dark. It's extremely sad at points. I'm not sure what it would take to get me to cry over a comic book movie, but this is as close as I think anything's gotten. It definitely hits you in the end, especially. And then there's just, look, you shouldn't be surprised by what happens.
It's pretty violent too. Like
it is. Yeah. Oh, sure. The Rocket's backstory is pretty brutal, but again, if you know the comics, you kind of know what's coming. I saw some tweet that said, James Gunn must have read We 3 before filming this movie.
Yeah.
Has a great hallway scene. I always like a good hallway fight scene. That was fun. That was a fun fight scene.
Well, it was also cool that because High Evolutionary has nothing to do with Rocket Raccoon in the comics.
No.
It was cool because it fits. Yeah. You could tie that together. And Counter Earth in the comics originally was literally Earth, like with people, not inhabited by
the opposite side of
the sun. But not inhabited by the Animen.
Right.
So, but it's cool.
It sort of fits.
Yeah.
I'm okay in comics when they take, we talked about this in the Stargirl TV show, right? They took Starman and took Star Spangled Kid and kind of made them one character. And it totally fits, right? Because like there's so many, like I get it when you need to kind of simplify some of this stuff. So a lot of the things they do with the High Evolutionary and especially tying with Rocket, it all makes sense. Like nothing in that.
And the Counter Earth of this movie is way more interesting for a movie than a Counter Earth populated by human beings.
Yep.
Well, and this Counter Earth tends to lean towards the 80s. So right.
Yeah. It was all cool, and it didn't, and they didn't try to downplay High Evolutionary being like a bad guy in this. Yeah, in the comics, High Evolutionary is very. He's more like Galactus. Villain? Yeah, he just sort of is.
Yeah,
and he the experiments and the stuff he does is never. I don't know. It's never quite negative, but it's.
Well, that story with Counter Earth in the 60s, he's trying to make a world that's better than Earth, where there is no violence, war, murder, and strife. Right. That's what he's creating. That's why he grows that Earth. And so that's not a villain plan.
No. And in theory, that's what he's doing here too. It's just, he's like, well, it didn't work. Start over. Right.
Well, the thing is he's a mad scientist villain. Right.
To a degree. Yeah.
Dr. Moreau.
Yeah. Like he's pushing, he has a goal in mind. The only issue is the goal that he has in mind. He has no empathy or anything for anything that comes from it or that, is destroyed because of it, because he is laser focused on that goal.
Which is good. It's I
RoboCop looking motherfucker. Oh god, I still love it.
And especially at the end, they tear his face off. Like good Lord,
that was heavy. I mean,
they hung on that for a while.
This is like rocketing to the upper stratosphere of PG-13. I mean, really.
Do you like the F-bomb that they've just put right in there? Just
it's very funny. It's very funny.
Well, Gunn did a Twitter Q&A, and I remember. Do you guys remember the story? You remember when he was fired?
Yeah.
I mean, you can't really fire a freelancer, but remember when he was fired?
Yeah.
So he had written Guardians 3 back then to come out after Endgame. There was a script, and then he was whatever happened. And he went on to do Suicide Squad, etc. And in this Q&A, it was somebody had asked him, and apparently the original villain was Annihilus for this movie. That Annihilus was the creator of Rocket, which is
weird.
I mean, maybe you could make it work. I don't want to say it wouldn't work, but this wherever this revision came in, I think he landed on a way better option for this movie. Not that I wouldn't love to see Annihilus live action.
Yeah, Annihilus. You know where you should have seen Annihilus was in Quantumania, right?
You should have seen a lot of things.
Like that would have made a lot more sense,
right?
Because what the fuck is Kang doing here? Who knows?
Hey, it's mini Kang.
Yeah,
and it's the bad mini Kang.
There, like Kang was trending on Twitter all weekend because people were like, "Could we just get rid of Kang and make a High Evolutionary like a Kang variant, and he could be the real Kang?" You know, like just some way figure this out somehow. Because boy, wow, what a mess! I just can't. You know, it's funny that. So my first thought coming out of this was, okay, so it's not, you know, it's not Burnout. They're still very capable of making what I think are really good movies, right? But you look back at you look back at Wakanda Forever. You look back at Quantumania. You look back at what the hell else was there? What there's another movie in there that I'm missing. What was the last one that came out before Quantumania? There's another one. Oh, Love and Thunder. And you're like, man, without Gunn.
Well, yeah, and look, this is like the coronation and the celebration of the guy who's now left Marvel to run the competition.
Yeah, exactly. So not only am I like, man, Marvel, what are you going to do? But I'm also like, oh god, if this is what he's bringing to DC, 2 big thumbs up. Yeah. Like they really must have given Gunn just the ability to go do whatever he wants in this movie. Another thing I noticed in this movie that I really enjoyed is, although they, much like Quantumania, they very easily could have had endless CG sets, but you can tell, man, can you tell when those are real sets and real people doing stuff? All that whole scene when they're infiltrating the I forget what it's called,
whatever the biomechanical place was.
Yeah. Oh, that thing was so cool.
It was
so creative.
Not like you can tell how much of that was real, right? All the stuff with Nathan Fillion was very, very funny too.
But I love that. I love the camera. The camera is an actual eye.
Yeah,
the security camera. So cool.
Yeah, just like sucking Drax through, like you can tell when something is not CG. You can tell that they had really shoved Dave Bautista into this like suction thing that they had to pull him out of, right? You can't fake that. You like all the scenes where they're fighting around. I mean, like you can tell that obviously people are on wires and stuff like that because it's like no gravity, but like you can tell that these are real big sets and real stuff going on here. And I remember when Gunn did Suicide Squad, people were like, "Oh, whatever, it's just all CG. Who cares?" And he's like, "It's not all CG." And he showed video from when they were filming some of the scenes. And he's like, yeah, of course there's CG in the background and, Starro's not real. But he was like, this is all real. This is all a real set. All these actors were in this water. They were all
nowhere was actually like Skyline stuff was CG, but that nowhere was. Of course.
That's a real,
That was real sets. And I'm like, okay, like this works.
Yep.
I think that's a big thing, especially in like sci-fi movies and movies that tend to have a lot of different locations, is you make it as tangible as possible. Like the stuff that the actors are dealing with is as tangible as possible. Stuff in the background that like I can that's fine, right? But if it's a tangible thing, then it works a lot better than if it's, an actor's trying to fake. Like Quantumania felt like it had a lot of them just running around on empty sets.
Yeah.
Right. It had really hard. Oh, look, we have a rock here and there's like some
so hard to watch.
Yeah.
Really, I don't know that I have too much to say at the end of the day, because I really like this. Again, it's not my favorite, but very, very high up on my list. And I'm very glad too, because man, it's been rough. The Marvel stuff has been tough. They haven't, to me, had we've had a couple. And I really like Doctor Strange. I really liked Spider-Man, but past Endgame, boy, not been great. And now with the writer strike, right? Things are getting delayed. Blade's already, they already said Blade's delayed. Daredevil, Born Again's off schedule, so it's going to get worse. Marvel's, man, seeing that trailer on the big screen did not help. Did not help, Kevin. Eek. I'm gonna watch it, but
I'm excited to see it because I know my daughter's gonna love it.
Yeah, that's great.
Right,
that's
totally
that's
good. Perfect.
Like I said before with the TV
audience.
show, like I'm going to enjoy her and like her enjoyment of it, and as a father-daughter experience, right? Like that's for me what's going to be.
Yeah, if it's if it ends up being the same quality as Miss Marvel, I'll be like, yeah, it's fine. Yeah, it's fine. It's not big summer temple Marvel blockbuster. Like, it's just different. I mean, we have different expectations for these movies. Yeah, I know. I mean, it is what it is, and that's fine. And not everything has to be for me. So cool. But Guardians, I don't have the opening weekend numbers here in front of me. But I will say underperformed because the expectations is always bigger, better, more, and that's just not the case anymore, right? The Marvel movies are way down. Every movie, the biggest movies in the last 2 years have been what? Avatar, Top Gun, Super Mario Brothers, right? It's not the Marvel movies anymore. They're really seeing a hit, especially domestically. So, which is, fine, really, if it takes the pressure off and it allows them to just do some cool stuff. And hey, look, at the end of the day, if it makes $600 million, that's still a huge fucking hit. Maybe just don't make movies that cost $800 million to make, like, why do you make some cool mid-level movies? Ant-Man doesn't have to be a $250 million CG epic. You did it right the first 2 times. What'd you do the third time? Why? Do we need 2 Avengers movies back to back?
No, they went
maybe
they
not
went reverse. They didn't go bigger. They went smaller.
Well,
they were almost to the negative zone.
Before we leave Guardians, what did you guys think of the ending scenes? The ending scenes,
like the post credits, or so I do think it is funny that the whole movie is kind of about animal, saving animals, helping animals. And it ends with them killing all those animals. And that was a little bit odd. They do kind of, Rocket does have sort of a line, and I feel like maybe that was added post, and they're like, oh, well, we have to save the people, I guess, right? I feel like that could have been anything else.
Yeah.
Like, that they could have been saving them from some giant monster or something. Like, I don't know. It felt a little weird. That was an odd, but I like the team. If they do that team might not work for a solo movie, but if they want to show up in other stuff, that'd be great. I had no idea. I mean, I don't know if they ever gave her a name. I had no clue that kid was supposed to be Phyla Vel. Yeah. Right. So that's Captain Marvel's kid, right?
But DNA created, not
yeah, clone, whatever.
What's her? Is it? What's her?
She's Captain Marvel.
Well, she's been Quasar also.
Quasar in the Annihilation stuff. Yeah. And then my favorite part. Oh man. Oh, forgot about Cosmo. Cosmo stole a show. Cosmo was great. Huh?
Not really.
What? What?
Yeah.
Cosmo was a very good
joke
dog.
Was way played out, and I was done with it.
It was very
It was
funny.
A little bizarre that it required knowledge of the holiday special of all things. Like, I guess you could have probably figured out what's going on without the holiday special, but there was a lot of callback to that.
Yeah. I loved Cosmo. But yeah, cool. Yeah, the post credit. I feel like, did I miss something? It's him talking to his grandfather, which is nice. I mean, that was a nice scene. And then it's like, oh, Star-Lord will be back. I'm like, okay, cool. But like, did I miss something in that scene?
I don't stay for the post credits anymore.
I
haven't seen one in like 5 movies.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
I watched the mid credits one, but the very, very end one is always just some dumb, like a punchline.
It's a connection, right? It's what's going to happen next. But I think I like this one just because it it was just like that shawarma moment, that like, little extra moment, and I didn't need it to carry me to anything else. Right.
Yeah. Well,
Like-
I feel like they're kind of done with that too, especially in this. This was an ending, right? This is not connecting to another thing, right? This is the end for.
What are you talking about? It's
so
connecting to Marvels.
Well, no, this isn't. I mean, this is the
know?
end for Guardians. So, the end scene, he was just talking to his grandfather, hanging out, and then just the Star-Lord will return. So, don't know when, don't know how, don't know where, but
He's probably in an invasion. Because remember, he was reading the article that said alien invasion on it.
Secret Invasion.
Secret Invasion.
He's not in that. No. He's not in that. I mean, I'm sure they'll all show up in Avengers, maybe. But
You mean
again,
the Kang Dynasty?
Yeah. But again, I have to assume there's talk. They're like, so we're just scrapping all of this and just gonna not, right?
That's a big egg on your face when you have that huge presentation with that timeline thing, and then you go, never mind.
DC did it.
Well, I know.
Now it's Marvel's turn.
Is that your role model? You just
Man.
recast, put a new. Look,
I mean, Blade's fucked. Blade is just never happening at this point.
Stop
Like
it.
that movie is just cursed. Oh no, dude,
the two things that got announced as being delayed from the writer's strike are the two things I care the most about of all of this.
Blade movie is cursed.
I know.
Never happening.
I'm just saying you don't have to speak it into existence.
Hey, are they bringing Ryan Reynolds back for this one?
Ryan Reynolds,
Back for the Blade stuff?
Blade, yeah, maybe. I don't know. Great movie. And if this is our last great Marvel movie, cool. I guess I have no idea what the next few years are going to be like. It seems rough. But we'll see. See what happens. But I am, man. Woo. Superman Legacy can't get here fast enough now.
Hey, we got to get Flash first.
And what, Aquaman?
Yeah, Aquaman and Blue Beetle
too.
and Joker. Yeah,
Joker.
Yeah.
I cannot wait. Lady Gaga is Harley.
What Gunn does so well, and maybe it makes perfect sense to have him on movies like Suicide Squad and Guardians, right? I mean, he loves the misfits, right? He loves those bunker characters, and there was really just a heart to these movies. Even, I mean, look, they tried in Guardians 2. I think it fell really flat, but at least they tried, and I can at least respect that. The stuff with Ego, it just did not work for me at all. But in 1 and 3, he nailed it. In Suicide Squad, he nailed it. In Peacemaker, he absolutely nailed it. Superman's tough, right? And Superman's not the same type, right? You can't come at it from the same perspective. But I think Gunn knows how to make this work. I think he knows how to get to the heart of these characters, and I'm very hopeful for Superman. Yeah, it's going to be different, but I think he's the right guy for it. There's a level to his movies that I just haven't seen from a lot of other directors. Even some of my favorite ones, I love Endgame and Infinity War. Endgame Infinity War was maybe the closest, right? That had that sort of heart. That backstory with Thanos and Gamora and Nebula. Like there was a lot to there. This is pretty heavy, right? But Winter Soldier. I would say not even quite to the same level, right? I mean, this stuff with Bucky and Cap, it's there, but I think Gunn did it better. Some of the relationship stuff and some of the that friendship between the characters, and that's tough to do for the superheroes because the big action is what gets people, right? The big fight scenes and the big explosions, and that's what people want to see, But if it's just kind of if the story's just whatever, doesn't stick with you, right? His movies, they do a good job, and I'm pretty hopeful for what he can bring to DC if he can bring that same level across all the different movies and have them work. We'll see what you can do. But that's Guardians 3. I really liked it. Not my favorite, but I really liked it.
It was definitely a step up from 2.
And from the recent Marvel stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I think a significant step up.
Yeah. There was a part of me when I was sitting there to watch the part I had missed where I'm like, do I just want to sit through and watch this whole thing again? And I didn't really need to the very next day sit through, but I would definitely watch it again.
Yeah, I totally am, because she didn't come with me. She's been really kind of burnt, like a lot of people, really kind of burned out on the comic movies. And we watched this trailer, and she was like, "Nah, I'm okay." And even if you guys don't remember, when I watched the trailer for Guardians, I was like, I don't know. I said it looks like a big movie. It looks like a big summer blockbuster movie, unlike the Marvels. But I was still like, I don't know. I'm sure it'll be fine, but whatever. Very, very surprised. So I think a good word of mouth. I had something like a 98% review on Rotten Tomatoes from viewers, which is like movies just don't get anymore.
Well, it wasn't before I saw it. It was at 78
for viewer reviews, or
I think so.
No, critic reviews. Critic reviews are like 80 or 78 or something like that. Yeah, I didn't check back on that, but I saw people posting the viewer reviews, which again, whatever. It's Rotten Tomatoes. I don't really care, but movies tend to not get that high of a score. So yeah, I think they did a really good job with this, and I told Leanne, I said I think she actually would have really liked it, compared to some of the more recent ones, which I know she really checked out on. So,
she doesn't have to edit this one.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. Yeah, there's really only one or two dumb Drax jokes, but they sort of pull back on him, and there's that line at the end, right, where they're like, oh, you're, maybe you're not the destroyer, maybe you're just the dad, right? And it was like that actually was okay, that sort of worked, and that kind of brings that character's arc full circle. And it's a little corny, but it compared to, it's not just
right.
Look, he makes his poop joke in the movie, fine, whatever, whatever, okay, but it wasn't like the second one where
he didn't say penis,
endless, where it's just endless. Right?
I do miss the destroyer, but it is a more interesting arc to have him end up here than just go off into the galaxy to murder.
Yeah.
Well, once Thanos is gone, he's kind of done, right? So that's sort of his, what is his next step, right? Well, fuck, he's really good with kids, right? They really do like him. So it works okay. Yeah. I feel like, there maybe was a couple, they could have dealt with that a little bit more, but I think overall they did a pretty decent job. I had a couple any other last thoughts?
I don't know if I can keep going to movies late.
Oh, I can't. No. I do like the 6 or 7 o'clock show that's the latest I go.
I went to the 10 o'clock show.
No, don't do that. You fall asleep.
I would have been fine if my dog hadn't left a present right by the front fucking door when I got home. I'm like, God damn it.
Yeah, if you're coming in at 1 o'clock in the morning, that's no good for anyone.
Can't party like I used to.
Hell no. So we do have a couple. I'll set up a couple of these before we get it. Oh wait, we got those questions. Why don't I?
Well, you should do you should do the IDW story, right?
Okay, let's do it. Let's do
it. That's now getting a little stale.
News?
Let's do IDW, then I'll do these.
Not that IDW is the most important. I just mean that's now a couple weeks old. So if we're gonna do it,
yeah. Well, it was like 2 weeks ago. Yeah. The rest of the stuff, there's some announcements. Stuff I want to talk about, but we'll do this, then we'll do the questions. We have had various talks in the last couple of years of some comic companies having some rough go. Oni had a bit of a rough time there, like a bunch of people. Well, IDW is now the next one. Roughly 40% of its staff was let go. This would have been 2 weeks ago, including the CEO and CFO. All new people have, of course, been brought in. So IDW, one of the major comic publishers in the United States, but like a lot of these smaller companies, picked up by a venture capitalist and is now just an arm of, I don't even know, what is even the main parent company? I had it here. I don't even remember.
We want IPs.
Not even. I don't even have it here. IDW Media Holdings, but they're the parent company of IDW Publishing and IDW Entertainment. But then there's a company that owns that, so it's just an arm of an arm of an arm. let go 40% of their staff, and delisted from the New York Stock Exchange because they were a publicly traded company as of a couple years ago. And publishing is tough. It's not just publishing, right? A lot of these companies are kind of resting on wanting to get big movie deals, big TV deals, and that takes a lot of money. And obviously Hollywood's going through some shit, so we're not seeing, a lot of those guys are not getting the return on their investment they want. IDW's lost a lot of their licenses in recent years, so I'm sure that's led to a significant decrease in their sales in their printing material. So I don't wish anyone at IDW bad. Obviously, a lot of good people lost their jobs, which sucks. But when these big companies come in to buy up your smaller company, it just never ends well, right? It's tough. It's tough to say no to the cash, I guess, if you're the owner, you want to get out. But will IDW be around in a couple of years? Maybe in some form, right? Oni's sticking around, and they've got some stuff that will keep it. But IDW's pushing hard on Star Wars and a few other licenses.
They don't even have the Star Wars license anymore.
No, Star Trek. Sorry, Star Trek. I meant Star Trek. They're, I'm trying to think, like Lock and Key over at Netflix, so that's done. All the American Library of Comics books are transitioning over to Clover. It appears. They've published the Clover. So American Library of Comics is the reprints of comic strips. So, which IDW has been doing for decades at this point. They moved. What is it? Why am I blanking? One of the really big ones moved over there a little while ago, and Clover Press has been doing them. And now Clover Press has Dick Tracy, which I'm super excited for because they're reprinting those first 6 Dick Tracy issues in the correct volume, and then it sounds like they're going to be reprinting all the IDW ones to match up. So, Brock, lots of Dick coming in the store.
God damn it!
Can't wait. Yeah, we'll see what.
It just seems like IDW's in the news like on a cycle. So and so's out in the top position.
They've
this has been restructured.
Yeah, they've churned through. I had the list here. Who was it here? Mark Doyle and Tara McCrillis have been named co-publishers. Jamie Rich became the editor-in-chief, and that's his.
Is Elon Musk running this fucking comic company?
That's his third or fourth EIC role in the last couple of years. Like, he's kind of jumped from company to company. He was at DC. He was at where was he before? I'm looking here. He was at Oni. He was at Tapas. He was senior editor at DC.
And then Mark Doyle was from Vertigo.
And then Mark Doyle was Vertigo. He came over 2021 to IDW. He launched their Originals line, which has not really done much, which, again, big names, right? And this is Dark Horse, IDW, Distillery, right? We talked about the other week, right? All these people, all these big names are coming to the companies. Hasn't really cranked out a hit yet. We'll see. Scott Snyder, G. Willow Wilson, Leanna Kangas. So, again, not small names. 2 out of 3 on the Meanwhile anthology. So there you go. But just hasn't moved the needle at IDW, unfortunately. Again, right? I'm sure the hope here is we're looking for a big IP. We're looking for a big, Netflix deal. We're looking for something. It hasn't happened yet. We'll see. Because IDW is big. I had their little chart here.
I know they've been pushed back to the dregs of previews.
Well, right. So they're a big part of IDW. This is on Popverse. Graham McMillan had this. This comes from a slide from one of their recent investor reports. Right, the point of the IDW Originals program, which is new creator-owned material by big-name creators, is you have your original IP, which then goes development for film, which then brings the product to marketplace, greenlight into production, release the movies, and then generate revenue for the comics, right? So the kind of dirty secret here is the comics don't really sell well until they get a movie based on them. Then the comics will sell well. That's sort of their pitch here, which this was my argument when we were talking about Distillery. Why don't you just make a fucking good comic, right? And I'm sure, look, this is not the creators. None of this goes to the creators. This is all the companies. If the money's not there, do you see Fantagraphics talking this way? Do you see Drawn and Quarterly talking this way? Like, do you know what I mean?
Well, it's short-term game versus long-term game, right? Like, if you have something that's quality, it'll rise to the top.
You don't have to be a media conglomerate doing all sorts of, big media properties and movies and licenses. If you're going to be a publicly traded, massive, corporation, you do. Why don't you just be a comic book company? Why don't you
comics are dying.
I'm trying to comic company. Dead. I think of IDW still as the Chris Ryall era, which was years ago. That's the last time.
Yeah, that's the start.
That's the last time I think of it as like a stable, like on the rise.
And what did they get? They got Lock and Key, which was a fantastic series. And because it was a good series, it became a TV show. It wasn't, we have to make a TV show, a comic that will become a TV show. They just made good comics.
Wait, are you Mark Millar?
And it became a TV show. I mean, look, more power to him, but Netflix will eventually be like, dude, nothing has worked. They lost their shirts on
Jupiter's Legacy.
Jupiter's Legacy, right?
Yeah.
I heard that it cost something like $200 million.
The steaming pile of shit that nobody watched.
I never watched. I mean, of course, I'd never watch it. But like, wasn't that? They just straight up axed that, right? I mean, I'm sure he's given for them. I'm sure Netflix is like, oh, whatever. This costs nothing. A couple million. Okay, sure, whatever. It's pocket change. We don't care. But what's the return on investment on that? Zero so far. Negative 190 million. Right. So like.
Well, I know I'm not paying my streaming fees for that shit.
IDW, this is not a comment on anyone who works there at all. On any of the comics, I can't comment because I haven't read them. This
is corporate.
Yeah, the comics that they put out are just not things that are in my wheelhouse. Is kind of stuff I'm interested in reading. So. Since Lock and Key ended, I'm talking about currently. The money that goes out of my pocket to IDW is in those artist edition books.
Yeah.
And nice. Maybe the business model, and it's easy to say this on a podcast because none of us are in the trenches. None of us have to deal with the investors and the bureaucracy, but maybe the business model is steer more into like a Fantagraphics than a monthly comic book publisher. I don't know. I just know that it seems like what they've been trying hasn't quite got the traction that they need it to get.
Yeah.
Well, I think that the releasing of those artist editions was like, it was a good pacing to releasing those, and it ran the gambit of what your interest was. So like, unless you're a collector, you're not going to pick up every single one. You'll pick up one if it's Daredevil, or you'll pick up one if it's X-Men, or a specific artist. And they had those American anthology ones, right? Or they were reprinting all those ones, so those were consistent. It might not have been a sales killer or like I don't think, but it was consistent.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. You can have all the miniseries and ongoing comics and specials and cool things you want. But if your point of existing is we must bring all these to a film or movie or an IP, it's not this is not going to happen. Again, when you make it and the only point for the comic to exist is to become a movie, I think comic fans see this. They feel this, and they don't buy the product. If your book doesn't sell, sure, of course, it can still become a movie or a TV show, I guess, if you get it in front of the right person. But what are the ones that have, good or bad, what are the ones that have actually happened, right, and been optioned? It tends to be, Watchmen and X, and Why the Last Man, right? And what gets talked about, right? The completed series like Ex Machina and DMZ, right, from Vertigo. Walking Dead, right, which had been around for years and years and years before becoming something, right? It's some stuff that had positive word of mouth from a dedicated fan base, and that caught the interest of the movie studios.
Wait, did they make an Ex Machina series?
No. But talking about stuff like Ex Machina and DMZ. No, and things like that never actually happened, right? No, okay, look, the Y show sucked, right? But it happened because of the comic. The comic existed for a decade prior, right?
Yeah, DMZ was okay. It wasn't horrid, but it wasn't.
No, but it's there's you can make that into something.
You could do. Right? You could name Sweet Tooth. You could name
the boys, Sweet
Paper
Tooth,
Girls.
Right? Yeah. Do you think Sweet Tooth was? Oh, we're going to make this into a movie?
No way.
No. Even the boys, like, I'm very confident Garth Ennis never in a million years imagined the boys would become a fucking TV show, let alone one of the best, right? Like, never.
Well, the funny thing is the boys became the best show, but Preacher fell.
Yeah,
hard.
But it happened, right?
Yeah.
Like this stuff still comes to market. So IDW, man, I don't know. Why don't you just make some good comics? And then again, that's not to the people working there. It's not to the creators. I know you're trying to make good comics. Company wise, why don't you not be a shitty giant corporation? And why don't you just?
Because it's short-term gain versus long-term gain.
And all the funding comes from investors, and I guess not anymore. But what are you going to do? You're just not the company you wanted to be. So just sell it to someone that can be a good comic book company, or just don't try to do this. Because it sucks. We got a couple questions.
We're not going to talk about Jim Lee
Patreon
and his promotion.
We'll deal with that next week. From Michael on Patreon. If you're a Patreon backer, you can leave us questions. There's a pinned thread. Feel free to leave us questions on there. He says, back in March 2022, the show suggested I'd order the Avengers Omnibus Volume 1, the George Perez Corpusec. I'm now getting around to reading it, and George Perez's art is amazing. Any news on Volume 2 getting a new reprint? Unfortunately, now that George Perez has sadly passed away. There's so much coming. At this point, every Marvel Omni is getting reprints sooner or later. Just wait. It'll happen. I don't think I saw 2 on the schedule yet, but so what Marvel was doing for a while was they were actually putting making new printings with new ISBN and actually a new solicitation. For a lot of books, they're actually doing what most normal book publishers do, and they just reprint the book.
Yeah.
So no change. So a lot of stuff has been coming back, including omnibuses. So I know Uncanny X-Men Volume 3, I believe, it's not getting a resolicit, a new 2024 printing or whatever. It's just coming back into print.
Mm-hmm.
So my hope is that Avengers Volume 2 happens soon. And
I know they've been doing the cap, the Brubaker cap stuff has been.
Yep. Now they did reformat that a little bit because they're trying to make it one run instead of these individual unnumbered volumes.
But the ones that are coming out are still unnumbered.
Yeah, but they're internally they're a new addition. Related, Marvel started their modern epic line. And with this, they're basically doing all the kind of books from the 2000s and up. And one of the first ones, so we've gotten one. It was a test. It was the Spider-Gwen. But the first batch of the ongoing stuff that's coming out, New Avengers. So I think they're putting out the first 2 volume of New Avengers in nice fat epic collections. They're starting a New Avengers for modern epic, which makes me now think that they may take the epic line up till New Avengers. because that is a pretty dividing line in the sand for Marvel ages. I don't know that they would have something in between Heroes Reborn that would cover just Heroes Reborn and Heroes Return before we get to New Avengers. So there's a good chance that we'll see the Busek Perez Avengers in a Marvel epic form sooner than later, because they're finishing out some of these runs. They have a, trust me, my shelves know there's a lot of them. They are getting through some of these epics. So we're now getting into more modern stuff, which is fantastic. And DC, it kills me every month that I don't see the start of this. Like, you guys are, man, it's like a decade of leaving money on the table. God, please, God, DC, give me those epic collections. But yes, I would expect to see that sooner than later. Okay. Now, so this is one I'm really bad at because I don't know anyone. But this is from Craig. It's from Craig Anderson. He says, give us your best 90s Wizard magazine vibe. What is your casting call for the Fantastic Four movie? Every member plus Doctor Doom or whoever you want the movie villain to be. And ignore those rumors already out there. Who do you want to see?
Like currently? I mean, Jesus, I don't even pay attention to actors anymore.
See, that's my problem. Like, it'd be like nobody that I know, right? Because I have no idea who any actor they would actually cast in. I love the fan castings of like the cast of Always Sunny in Philadelphia as the Fantastic Four because it's perfect, right? That's great, sure, absolutely. But really, I don't know. It's going to be people I've never heard of because or it's going to be some famous actor that I fucking hate because that's the only people they cast in movies now. It's going to be because it was Adam Driver and who? Oh yeah, Adam Driver as Sue.
Well,
Sue
okay.
Storm?
Well, look, Craig. In the spirit of Craig's question, if Adam Driver is going to be in the FF movie, if.
Make him Dr.
Doom,
motherfucker.
Not Reed.
Yes,
it's right there. It's right there. How about Seth Rogen as the Thing?
Sure,
fine,
sure.
Well, Craig said channel wizard. That's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah. Jessica Alba.
What? You just want to recast it? Bring back the same team.
Hey,
Chris Evans is the Torch.
No. Chris Evans is Mr. Fantastic this time.
Yeah, it'd be fine.
You can bring back the Michael B. Jordan Torch.
Yeah. I just assume, based on the casting of Kang, that Mr. Fantastic is not going to be white. I don't know. I mean, I that's just what I assume. I mean, we had him in we had what's his face in Doctor Strange, but I figure because the whole backstory with Kang is that he's Reed's great grandfather and descendant, some shit. It's so complicated, but there's a part of me that's like, you want to stay true to the comic characters, but there's also the part of me that's like, I feel like they're gonna, they've tried to change up the race and genders of characters on a pretty regular basis. Fantastic Four is a bunch of white people. I feel like that might not be the case when the movie comes out. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I have no clue. No way. I have no idea. Humans with skin. That's what I always say. I have no idea. I have no idea who anyone is. I have no idea who they are until they're in a superhero movie, and then I'll be like, yeah, there's that person. Cool. But like, yeah, I have no clue. I have no idea. Sorry.
Jeez, Craig. Ryan, you were trying to. You got to at least. Again, if we're channeling Wizard, let's just pull out the Jump Street cast, and we'll put Channing Tatum and Jonah Hill. That could be Reed and Johnny Storm. Jonah Hill is Johnny.
Okay.
Seth Rogen is the voice of Ben Grimm. You just make him a CG. I mean, I'm sure they'll have to show him. And then we just need a Sue.
He's Jewish. That works.
Yeah,
that works.
We just need a Sue from that pool of actors. I'm stumbling here.
Take the Fast and Furious cast.
Right.
Oh, it'll be Jenna Ortega.
Okay, yeah.
Just throw Jenna Ortega in as Sue.
I mean, Sue is young, but Jesus
Christ.
I
know, Rob, it's young. Like, and then we got to cast a teenage. I mean, Reed is older than her in the comics, but
yeah.
but not
that much
right,
of a difference.
We had to age her up.
It's still crazy. Speaking of age differences, it's still crazy to go back and read the original Lee Kirby X-Men when Professor X is like meant to be in his 20s and crushing on teenage Jean Grey, who's this like, but it's like he seems like perpetually 50 or 60.
Yeah,
but he's meant to be like in his 20s in those first issues, and so he's like,
really,
he's like the older brother of the teenage kids.
Yeah, it's the first class. Like that's the whole first class thing.
God,
he does not come off that in those early issues. Yeah, they make him look like he's like 60. Man. Now you go to X-Men, I guarantee you Jenna Ortega will be cast as someone in an X-Men movie or TV show. Of course. Like it's 100%, right? Movie, I don't know. But TV show, yeah. She'll be in something, I'm sure.
Well, see, Craig's question, if he had asked fan casting for the X-Men, then that's really hard because then you go, well, what team am I casting?
Just take the Game of Thrones. No, just take the Game of Thrones cast and throw them in the X-Men.
Oh, that'd be too old. You could take the Riverdale cast and throw them next. Oh, they're all fucking 40 now too. So, all right.
Well, you know who I could see as Doom then if we're going throwbacks. Tom.
Yeah, you make Adam Driver Doom, and I'm like totally fine with that. Totally fine.
Great.
Reed? Fuck no.
Played Superman. Tom Welling
as Doom.
As Doom, yeah.
I don't see that at all. I mean, the problem with the Doom, right, is you've got to have that like
charisma,
just it's charisma, but just like you got to play that like, you know, that flawed character where that one scar just crushes your soul, and that's hard. I mean, like I do hate Adam Driver, but he's the right guy for someone like Doom. I think he could play that role, whether I like him or not. I think he's actually good. Reed. Not in a million billion years do I see him as Reed Richards.
Who was the Doom in that Josh Trank FF movie?
Who fucking cares? Like nobody. Who's anybody in that movie?
I watched that. Didn't you guys watch it?
No.
Yeah, it's horrible.
I literally can't remember who played Doom.
I don't remember anyone who plays anyone in that movie. I have no clue who any of those people are. Nobody's. Well, no, except Human Torch was what's his face, right?
Yeah. Michael B. Jordan.
Michael B. Jordan, but everyone else, like, I have no fucking idea. I have no idea who was in that movie.
Wasn't Reed? Oh God, what was that? What's that actor's name?
Yeah, him.
Yeah, I have no idea. That movie killed everyone's career. All right, that's a wonderful podcast. Thank you all very much. If you guys saw Guardians, hope you like to have a review.
Don't forget, you got to give a Meanwhile update right now.
Yeah. We still got a week and change, so you still got plenty of time to back our comic book that myself and Kevin edited and worked on. Brock did a story, and Toby did a story, and all sorts of famous people did stories, and it's on Kickstarter. Look up Meanwhile, a comic shop anthology. We're at about $9,000, a little under $8,500 or so. On Kickstarter, sold a bunch through the store. Still aiming for mid-August release date. That's still the plan. So we're putting on the finishing touches to the book. It's been an experience, and we'll talk a lot more once it's actually out and everything. But yeah,
Ryan finally did an update. That was good.
Yeah, we had people asking to buy multiple copies. I thought you just could, because I made it so you could buy as many as you want, but I didn't realize they made it so you actually had to like back and you have like different shipping options and stuff. So I just made it so people could add on whatever they wanted. So people you can buy.
And the stretch goal is a photo cover with Adam Driver in an FF uniform. So if we get to a certain dollar pledge.
I'm not sure if Fox will approve that, or Disney will approve that. But what are you gonna do?
Why do I feel like bad Adam Driver jokes are going to be on this podcast, like on Last Week Tonight with John Oliver?
Hopefully, never again. So we'll. The less I talk about Adam Driver, the better day I'm having. So. I really don't like him.
Why?
He's super talented.
I really don't like.
He's really good.
I really don't like Adam Driver. He's an ugly man. I really don't like Adam Driver.
What?
He's a hideous human being.
But wait, that's why you don't like him?
He is just a hideous looking person. Like, I don't like Adam Driver. It's just something about him. Something about that guy.
What is wrong
Like, he's
with
fine as
you?
Kylo Ren. I didn't care. I'm like, fine, whatever. But like, no, I don't like Adam Driver. I don't like Adam Driver at all. It's not like Tom Cruise level. It's just like, I just don't like him. We had this conversation about Lady Gaga. Why? I have no fucking idea. I just don't like her. Right? Like, I don't know. You just don't like people.
That could be
Rubs you
Sue
the wrong
Storm,
way.
Lady Gaga, Adam Driver,
Yeah.
Lady Gaga.
Fucking throw myself off a cliff. Like, I just don't like. Yeah, I don't like Adam Driver. I don't like Lady Gaga. Whatever. I'll watch the movies if they're in superhero stuff.
Okay,
I don't
Brock,
care.
you got it. Adam
Hopefully they're
Driver's
good.
Reed, Lady Gaga's Sue, Tom Cruise is Doctor Doom.
Yes,
We just need to fill out who's like a
Johnny
young.
and Ben.
We need a young actor Ryan doesn't like a.
Oh, any young
Okay.
actor I hate, right? So some
here.
TikTok star.
I got it. We can have Jenna Ortega play the alt thing instead of the Ben Grimm one, right?
No, we
The
need
one where
Jenna
she takes
Ortega. Jenna Ortega's Nova. Save her.
Oh,
Save
that's
her.
I
right.
hate Jenna
That's
Ortega.
right.
I just hate Wednesday. I don't hate Jenna
Oh,
Ortega.
okay.
She was great in You. I just hate
okay.
Wednesday.
Oh, okay.
No, she's
What
fine.
other
No.
actors do you hate? Let's
Yeah.
fill out your Fantastic Four with the hate.
Really not many. There's really not many. But thank you all very much.
Yeah, let's
for
end on
listening
a
to this
positive
episode and all our previous episodes. ComicSpiracyPodcast.com and Apple Podcasts. Of course, our top tier Patreon backers, Luke and Derek and The Lowdown, which is on Spotify and YouTube. You can check them out, as well as Joe Duff, Kelsey May, Craig Anderson in his new podcast, The Executive Evolution. Please check that out. Jimmy Rivera at the Social Forum Podcast, and Talon Bray. Thank you all very much for your continued support at patreon.com/comicconspiracy. You can go to comicsconspiracy.biz to pick up books from us. You can purchase them for mail order or pickup. Head over to conspiratobrock.com, see his postings and videos and whatever else he does over there. Charlie's Doctor Who podcast, Wanders in the Fourth Dimension.
The one he actually
that
likes
out.
being on.
Yeah, well, it's his podcast. I hope he likes being on it. Kevin's weekly interview series between the panels at Fanbase Press. And my wife Leanne is at leannehill.com, and their artwork is available at the shop and also on Etsy at etsy.com/shop/LeanneHillArt. A lot of fan art and commissions and stuff you can get from her there. If you're on Twitter still, you can follow myself. I'm Ryan Higgins Ryan. I'm still not a blue check mark. Now I'm definitely not a blue check mark. Brock is Brock Sager. Toby is Toby XI. Charlie is Insanity and Chaos. Kevin is that Kevin Sharp. The store is Comic Con Store. And please follow. Please listen to Geekbox. Will be on next week with a new episode. And our good friends over at Manga Machinations talk about manga and anime. And that's it. Thank you all very much. And hope you guys enjoyed Guardians if you saw it. And we'll be back next week.